If people have any questions, we have somebody who probably some reporters might want to pigeonhole and ask questions of for Barbara. So if anybody has any questions, I can probably come up with a few myself. But if not, okay, wait for the mic. Is that on?
Thanks. I'm Peggy Orchowski. I'm the congressional correspondent for the Hispanic Outlook magazine. I've written 2 books on immigration that Mark has endorsed, which is nice. I have a gazillion questions, but I was just wondering with you, Mr. Rothstein, do you belong to IRE? Are you supported by investigative grants? How is your paper or your broadcasting station funding your 2 years of investigations?
Why don't we give them the mic?
Well, that's a good question. We're just funded as a regular employee, but as you can, so I'm employed by Hearst Corporation, just like anybody at any other Hearst stations. But it gets to the heart of why investigative reporting or any kind of enterprise reporting that takes, where it's required to take some time to learn the topics and dig into things, is so difficult in sort of this day and age because it's expensive. If you look at it from a pure productivity standpoint, do you want somebody turning out 2-3 stories a day, or someone turning out 2-3 stories a month, every 2 months, or longer? So that's the challenge. You know, hopefully we make the case, and I think it's well heard that in the age of the internet, when information is so readily available everywhere, that unique content, including investigative reporting, is more valuable than covering a press conference that people can watch on the stream on their phones, for example. So that's the case we make. Hopefully hopefully my bosses are still convinced by it.
I had a question for Barbara, actually. We'll get well, yeah, hold on to it. What's the future for the voice office likely to be? In other words, because you're acting director, and I don't sort of mean necessarily for you personally, but I mean, how do you see it developing or changing, or what are the plans for it?
Sure. Well, my real job is I'm the Deputy Assistant Director for Stakeholder Engagement and The Voice. So I will stick around regardless, which I'm really happy to do. I think, looking at this office right now is analyzing the types of calls that we're getting. We have metrics, seeing volume, seeing the kind of requests, and really figuring out what the victims need. The reality is that there are some victims that have expectations that we cannot meet. We are not a social service agency. We are a law enforcement agency. What we can do, however, is what I talked about earlier, is empower them with information. Empower them with the who, what, when, and where. In some cases, because as all of you know, some cases may be protected by law or policy. VAWA cases, for instance, if somebody has applied for a benefit and other things, TEU visas, by law, that's protected information that we cannot give, even if it's a victim asking for that. So, I fully anticipate that not everybody will be happy, and that's just an expectation that we have. But I believe that at the core of this office is really just trying to help people. And, we don't provide social services. We are engaging, as I've explained it, this is another stakeholder that we have never engaged with. We engage with law enforcement. We engage with the public. We engage with NGOs. Well, the president through the EO said, well, guess what? You're going to engage with victims. And that is what we're doing. So really, it's engaging with them, listening to them, seeing what they need, referring them when they need social services to victims assistance specialists that work within ICE that could get them with those local community services. Is it psychological support that you need? Okay, in certain states, I can get you with certain people, and our VASAs can do that. Is it funeral expenses? Well, it depends on the state, what is, allocated allocated, et cetera. So we've only been, around for a month. I fully anticipate that we have a lot of growing to do, a lot of learning to do, a lot of course corrections, as is with life. If you're doing anything right, hopefully you're being introspective, you're learning, and you're growing, and you're changing, and you're evolving. And that's what I tell my team all the time. And just seeing, what is needed, hearing people, and seeing, the resources we have and how we can expand and shrink as necessary.
I don't mean to be a wise guy, but on the first day, basically the anti-borders guys started calling in illegal alien sightings to the phone number, and that was they all got a big thrill out of doing that. Has that tapered off? No more illegal, alien, not
Yes.
illegal alien sightings, but space alien
Space
sightings.
aliens, yeah, it's unfortunate. I have to say, and listen, I'm fine, and I know everybody here's fine with people being for or against something. That's what American values are about. That's what our country's about. People can express their opinions and be respected. What I'm not for is people monopolizing a resource for people, and that's what they were doing. They were monopolizing a resource, trying to clog the lines. That has luckily tapered off. You're still going to have those people, and we respect people's opinions, and they could do that, but they should not monopolize this line, which is really for victims who need help.
There was a question in the back, and then over here. No, Grant had the question.
Oh, was it? Oh, no.
Okay. You were going to ask about the space aliens? Okay.
You took it away. Well, Barbara, I really appreciate the way you framed the work of ICE in terms of not really being about punitive measures, really, but about helping. Of course, you didn't talk so much about all the people you're helping in the United States, but what we certainly, I think our organization's Numbers, I'm with Numbers USA, Roy Beck, we've always felt that so much work that's done on deterrence is about saving lives, because people do die crossing that desert, and they have so many other things. So I guess I'm going to hit two things here, but one of them is I'd be kind of interested in ways that we could, as an organization, do more to magnify that message from ICE, because that's a great message. And for you, Mike, Kevin, rather, there's a couple of real old hands from newspapering in the room. One of them's, you're still back in the corner, the gray-headed guy back there. When we broke in the 60s in newspapers and working at local newspapers or local TV stations, there was some great stuff that was done in the local area, but was just kind of lost because it didn't go anywhere. It didn't matter unless a national newspaper did it, or the network. I just wonder whether that's one thing that might be a little better now, that you feel like a local TV station or a local newspaper, because of the internet and because of so many other things, may be able to, your work has more national significance. And so many things, really, let's face it, they happen at the local level. And you're the guys that can really bring it out. What's your feeling? Do you still feel like your stuff doesn't maybe get the attention it should, or did these investigative reports have national effect?
But my stuff doesn't get the attention it should. It never does. But two thoughts on that. One is, when I made the jump from newspapers to TV, I did notice that the impact of what we were working on was reduced. Where I worked for the Boston Herald, which was not the primary paper in town, it's the Globe. But even at the Herald, if you had a good story, you sort of broke a story, it would drive the news coverage in the area for the day. Maybe not nationally, but TV and radio would pick it up. The Associated Press may pick it up. And then I made the jump to TV, and I felt like we were doing the same stories, similar stories that would be in the Herald, and if they were in the Herald or the Globe would have driven coverage, but they were broadcast and just dissipated. So I do still feel that's the case to some extent. I will say that the impact of a story that any local outfit may do gets magnified really when, usually when an interest group picks it up. So sometimes it could be immigration, it could be law enforcement, and a lot of times that will magnify, get it out of the Boston area in our case. That's been my experience. I don't know about other stations, but that's, and I don't have a good answer for you, but that's when I've seen, when I've seen stories sort of grow outside the region, that's been it.
Did you have anything, Barbara?
Yes, he had a question for me. I always have something to say. So you know, for me, the saving lives message is what drives me every day. Clearly, ICE has a vast footprint as far as all the various laws that we help enforce. But here, focusing on immigration, focusing on the fact that I always say it's not a bale of dope that you're talking about a person. And I think that there's a lot of irresponsible rhetoric all around. And I'm apolitical. I don't care about politics. I'm a public servant. But I will tell you that I hear that irresponsible rhetoric, and I think instead of focusing the energy on talking about things that are not real, that are not happening, no, we don't do checkpoints, no, we don't indiscriminately stop people and say, wow, you look Hispanic, Barbara Gonzalez. Can I see your papers? That does not happen. Rather than focusing energy talking on that, we need to talk about the real villains here, which are the smuggling organizations. We need to talk about the people that are dying every single day. We need to talk about the girls that are being raped every single day. And people don't talk about that. It gets lost. In the headlines, it's, you know, either you're pro or against. You know, 50% of the people are going to love us 100% of the time, 50 are going to hate us 100% of the time. But in that conversation, that core message gets lost, which is people are dying, and people need to wake up and talk about that and get like just a movement worldwide. And when I've spent time in Central America, that's what I did. I got out there and I talked to them about, number one, every country has a sovereign responsibility to protect its borders. That when I landed in their country, they looked at my papers. So when I was on TV, I said, just like you are protecting your border, we are protecting ours, right? And then you talk about that message of the stay home, stay safe sometimes doesn't necessarily work, but the fact that the laws haven't changed, and if you come the wrong way, the vast majority of you are going to be deported. So I think just creating that real conversation that is about people and, you know, folks dying is very, very important, and it's getting lost.
We had a question here, Marguerite, and then in the back here.
Mal-client accuracy in academia. I'm going to awkwardly try to fish three numbers out of one question. Okay. Barbara, what's your caseload? How many smugglers do we know of? And Kevin, how many identity imposters are there in Massachusetts alone?
You bring the,
Sure.
I know.
If you're talking about the voice caseload, okay, voice caseload, we've had a couple hundred referrals of victims that have contacted us that have been referred to a community relations officer, and that's the person that does the engagement to find out what they need, and you know, we'll make that connection with the victim's assistance specialist if they need it. That's the first thing. As far as the smuggling world, I can tell you when I was in the press shop and when I spent time in Central America, I mean, we had arrested hundreds of smugglers, I think, in, you know, just 2 years, a two-year period. We obviously count our fiscal years and had seized millions and millions of dollars. I'm not sure what those numbers are now, but I can tell you that there's really a robust effort by our agency on the Homeland Security Investigations front to target these transnational organized networks, because they're working without borders, right? They are seamlessly operating to bring people over here. So what we're doing is, obviously diplomatically and, you know, working through embassies, is meeting with all these foreign partners. We're stationed overseas, Homeland Security investigations, and building these alliances and building training opportunities and having vetted units and such so that we can conduct simultaneous joint operations. We've done them throughout Central America, leading into Mexico. So I think it's a continual effort, both on the communications front and on the investigations front, and we all just have to keep on hitting them and hitting them where it hurts, which is their pockets.
It's a hard act to follow. The answer to the question of how many identity imposters are in Massachusetts is nobody knows. And that's been the subject of the last story or two that Kathy and I have worked on, where we've questioned the Registry of Motor Vehicles' lack of interest in finding that out. I think the last story that we did, we interviewed a representative of LexisNexis. Everybody knows what that is, big data company. And he talked about how he made an offer to the Massachusetts registry, and he's made this offer in other states, to basically run their database of 5 million plus license holders in Massachusetts. And he'll find red flags for fraud. And in other states, they found about an 8% fraud rate. I should say red flags for fraud. Massachusetts didn't take him up on the offer. So if you take the 8% of 5.5 million as possible fraud, that's not just identity imposters. It could be, well, they'd be identity imposters, but it could be someone with the identity of a dead person, a lot of those, all kinds of.
Good, thank you. Pete, and then we had Jerry had a question in the back, and then we'll wrap it up.
Again, a question for both of you. Kevin, what kind of pushback do you get when you do stories on immigration? I mean, do your advertisers get worried? Does the public deluge your station with angry reaction, and that could affect editorial policy, I suppose? And Barbara, is voice, I mean, DHS, HSI covers lots of different laws, not just immigration. So does your group deal with the other parts of ICE enforcement agenda?
I don't remember any significant pushback on stories we've done. I think we've been careful to separate opinion from our stories. If you're doing a story about secure communities or identity imposters, it is what it is. I think I don't know why why we're here. I think it may have to do with we just follow the story wherever it goes. We don't have an agenda. We don't have professional opinions on immigration, and we try very hard to keep those out of the stories. We've included immigrants' voices. We've included advocates for immigration. In our stories, we've interviewed victims of abusive employees. So, to my mind anyway, we've covered things fairly and with some balance. I think there's a sense that I'm not saying I agree or disagree with this. I think there's a sense that journalists don't cover some topics because they're afraid or they don't want to, for whatever reason. I don't know if that's true or not, but so we cover what we cover and we make our case.
Barbara?
So our office is helping all victims of crime with a nexus to immigration. And that's, yes, so because the way that we've characterized our office and how it stands separate and apart from the DOJ Office of Victims' Crimes, because a lot of people have said that this office is a duplication of efforts, when in fact it is not, because our friends at DOJ, OVC, are not experts in immigration. We are. So there are services for those types of people elsewhere, but we felt, and obviously through the executive order we're mandated, that we needed to assist those with a nexus to immigration.
Let's take one last question in the back, and then I want to respect people's time.
Kevin, I have a question for you on a point that Mark raised. Do you have any thoughts on why the paucity of investigative reporting, especially on abuses of the system by corporate business interests as well as by migrants themselves?
Do you mean as it relates to immigration or just? I don't, to be honest. I mean, if your question is, have we ever been steered away from something like that? You know, no.
No, it's really that you have seen some of the ways that the system is manipulated, violated in ways that are systematic or seemingly could be identified by a watchdog reporter. And we just don't see much of that. I was a reporter for many years myself, and this is one of mine.
I don't think I have a good answer, to be perfectly honest. You know, usually the general answer would be, it's a really hard story to do, and so there's other stories that are come up. I don't know. I don't know why. If you have some story ideas, be happy to.
Yeah, Jerry has plenty of story ideas, I think. Yeah.
So sorry I couldn't be more helpful, but I don't think they're. In my experience, 20 years in journalism, I've never seen a topic where there's outside pressure to not do a story or to do a story, you know, financial pressure on a news organization. That's a legitimate concern and something to be watchful of. Just speaking for myself, I've never experienced it.
Okay, yeah. Maddie will get to ask the last question. This is Kevin's daughter who's here on a field trip. So,
Hi, I'm Maddie. My question is for Barbara. So I know you were talking about how the most important thing is that how people need help and how people are dying. How do you help them if they're turned down or if they can't get the help that they need? How does your organization help them do that?
That's a great question. So you're talking about the actual people that are not living in America and that want to come here unlawfully?
No, not unlawfully, but like if they can't come, if they get turned down for the wrong reasons or if they get falsely accused or something and they can't get in.
Sure. So, well, there's a lot of things, right? So luckily, because we're the best country in the world, we have a lot of systems in place for people that could file for, let's say, asylum. You know, if they're being persecuted back home, there's, you know, asylum laws, there's refugee laws, and there's also a lot of other ways that we can help people, and it's not just through my office or my organization, but as I was talking about, how you help, you know, empower people or save lives is through education. And one of the things that we do is go and spend time overseas and partner with local groups and talk to people about the dangers of the journey and talk to them about opportunities there and really developing opportunities in these other countries and working with them diplomatically. For instance, there's going to be a conference soon in South Florida where you're going to have lots of presidents for Central America who are going to be meeting, talking about what they can do to improve conditions in their respective countries so that people can actually stay. So there's a lot of things that we can do, I think, and that we do as a country, just writ large, to help people.
thank you, folks. I just want to emphasize the point that actually Kevin had alluded to. The point of our award is not to promote a particular point of view, which we have a particular point of view. I have no idea what Kevin or Mike or our Barbara think about immigration, and I don't care, because the point of this award is to foster, you know, informed or foster reporting, recognized reporting that fosters informed decision making on this issue. And frankly, this is one where that's sorely needed, because the reporting on this has generally been pretty one-sided and pretty bad. And so I'd like to thank Kevin for coming, congratulate Kevin and Mike on their award. Thank you, Barbara, for speaking. I'm not sure how long they're willing to remain here to be accosted by you if you want to talk some more, but I wanted to wrap it up now in case people have jobs to go to. Thank you very much, and I think we'll have the video of the event on the site at some point, probably next week. Thank you very much, and thanks all of you for coming.